This program is made possible by 46% of non-retirees believe they can't afford to retire. American Senior Benefits agents help retirees find solutions aiding your journey to retirement and financial security. More at wichita.americanseniorbenefits.com. Moving can be stressful. Whether your move is local or long distance, 2 Men in a Truck can help. More at 2men.com.
Are you a wartime veteran ages 73 to 85? Did you know there are new rules that may affect your pension? Don't lose out on benefits you deserve. Our team serves you because you served us. Contact Long-Term Care for Veterans today.
Welcome to another episode of Empowering Seniors. Today we're going to talk about naturally occurring retirement communities and continue a conversation that we started back with Dr. Migliaccio. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm intrigued by your research regarding Wichita and also this concept of NORC. So tell us what that is.
So NORC stands for Naturally Occurring Retirement Community. It's a concept that's been around for decades and began with folks looking at kind of conglomerations of older adults and, how did they form, et cetera, et cetera. If you have an individual, so the basic premise was, a couple or somebody moves from, in Wichita, moves to someplace else for being a snowbird, or it's warmer, or typically they'll go to Arizona or New Mexico or those kinds of things. They'll find a really nice place to live. And then they'll come back and they'll visit their friends or they'll visit family that's still back wherever. And they'll tell their friends about how great it is and how cheap it is and how inexpensive it is and how the services are wonderful and the people are really good and the weather's nice. And those folks will go down for a visit and then they'll like it and then they'll move down there. And that pattern goes, each one tells one. When we talk about the best way to communicate with seniors is telephone, telegraph, and telesenior, because they are communicators with each other about what works, what doesn't work. So if you follow that process, what happens is that other people from other places are doing the same thing. And then after a while, you get a group of what's called a naturally occurring retirement community. Now that's great, but what happens is they also age in place. We've talked about the housing issue, and the housing is not really built for people getting older in. And so now you have a whole community that was not built for people getting older in. Suddenly there are what we call reverse migration issues, that people who move to Florida, one of the spouses will pass away, the family's still someplace else, and now you have a spouse or a couple that are getting older, can't really take care of themselves the way that the family feels comfortable with, and they move back. What happens is that when they have sold their home, they try to move back into their neighborhood, they can't afford their old house anymore. So now you've got another issue on top of it. So these naturally occurring retirement communities started to be investigated as a place where, what is it that's attracting people there to begin with? How is it being marketed? Because a lot of times these were emerging without any commercial marketing at all. That's what they're calling naturally occurring. And yet they were bringing resources, but they were also placing sometimes demands on local communities that the communities were not prepared for. So it became a whole arena of study. One of the things that struck me about Wichita was, again, a combination of health span, wealth span, and lifespan, and attitude. That Wichita, I'm saying, like, wow, I'm wondering in my own mind, I wonder if there's a naturally occurring retirement community creating here because of those things. And I don't know. I don't have the information on that. It's something that I'm going to be looking into. But the literature on naturally occurring retirement communities is such that you have the opportunity to consider how to provide services. And that goes into a second component of these age-friendly communities and the age-friendly community designation. One of the things that does is, in creating a better age-friendly community, it creates a better age-friendly community for everybody at every age. I often like to give an example of how something that's designed for older population translates into something that's better for everybody. There's probably a few people in your audience who might remember when car trunks came up to your belly button or higher. You know, it might come up if you had a big Cadillac, you had to do a deep dive into a cave to get your golf clubs out. At some point, Buick went to their older customers who were their major part of their market and said, help us design the next cars. They didn't go to the engineers first. They went to the customer first. Brilliant idea, right? So what they decided to do was to build a cutout trunk. Well, that's great because you can get your groceries and you can put them in and you don't have to kill yourself to get out. But guess who else it benefits? Got a mom with a stroller, right? Who doesn't have to do that. You have people who have other kinds of equipment and teenagers or whoever. It benefited everybody. It became a universal design issue that emanated from somebody saying, let's try and make this a better product for the people who are primary customers. And that's what happens in the age-friendly communities. When you start looking at how an age-friendly community can be an attraction for a naturally occurring retirement community, but it's the whole community. It's not like an enclave. It's not a gated community. It's not like someplace where only older people congregate and live, because a lot of older folks don't like that. They move from those communities because they say there's no kids here.
Yeah.
There's no life. All I got is the people next door, and watching ambulances and.
Honestly, they'll say there's too many old people there.
Too many old people here, right. My 90-year-old grandmother refused to go to the senior center when I asked her why. She said, there's too many old people, But a naturally occurring retirement community is something that's naturally built, something that has the community, and almost like you do with the housing, you need a little remodeling. You need something to make some accommodation, but that accommodation and remodeling benefits everybody who walks in the door. So it's the same with everybody who walks into the community. It just makes a place a better place to live.
So for Wichita and some of our surrounding areas, like Newton and Heston, they have a good thing going on there. I see a lot of reverse migration going there.
Okay, interesting.
And some interesting things being done where I think that is a naturally occurring retirement community.
Yeah.
And I think there's a big opportunity for Wichita. So tell us what makes this maybe a prime candidate and how that could benefit the city.
There are places in the country that, for economic reasons, there are industries that used to be there or no longer there, actually targeted bringing in older adults into their community because they want to do that for the same reason Willie Sutton robbed banks. The response is because that's where the money is. When you look at, kind of this wealth transfer and also the value of kind of the unrecognized value of what the older population already has, that's transferable, that's movable. I mean, traditionally, they've been moving it from the East Coast down to Florida and the South. They've been moving it from the Midwest to the Southwest and to Florida. And when you look at those migrate, I mean, why are they going? Okay, it's getting too expensive to live at home. The weather's better. You have friends there. The money is going to last longer. You have a better quality of life and a lifestyle, okay? Those places accommodate it. So the places that are accommodating that are bringing in the wealth that's already out there. This is not wealth that needs to be created. It's sitting there. So it depends on what you need to do and how much of that pot you want to try and go for. You can certainly do it, but again, my sense is a lot of the places that are doing that are places that have more older folks than Wichita does. Your 13.6% out of the last census is not a large proportion. You have room to grow there because there are again, communities that have, typically it's around 15%. It's going to go up as the baby boomers get older and as they age over the next 10, 15 years. Now's kind of a good time. This way you have about, if you want to wait for the real lumps to come in, you got about 10 years. It gives you time to plan and create. And then to take a look at and keep track of what's going on. Because
you looked at Wichita in terms of livability and affordability. You noted some things that you thought were interesting.
Yeah. One of the things that struck me was, and you obviously know the real estate side much better than I do. I'm just going by kind of, third-party numbers. Average home price, average home value in Wichita is about $129,000. And you said that was reasonable, and I'll go with your expertise on that. If you translate that into the number of folks in Wichita today who have homes who are 65, and probably being in selling capacity in the next 10 to 15 years, that's a lot of value. It's about $3.5 billion in just property value from them that's going to be in transition, all right? It's going to be money in motion. You can take advantage of that for younger families, because don't forget you got the baby boomer kids, the millennials, that are now they're in their 30s, they're starting to have their kids, they're starting to look at further down the road, they're looking at their own careers, they're looking at their own homes, purchases, their kids college, that kind of thing. The other thing that struck me about Wichita, which I thought was really interesting, you got a 30% college graduation proportion. That's really high.
Good.
I haven't seen that since the baby boomers, mostly males, decided to go to college rather than get drafted. So the baby boomer proportion of folks with bachelor or more education is relatively high. It drops down in generations after that to typically about 22 to 25%. More with some college, it goes up to about 50% if you include, some college. But college graduates have an economic advantage, definite economic advantage over their lifetime in terms of income, just because of the value of that degree. So you have all of the things that lend to a multi-generational platform for being able to make a place better for the people who are here or older now, better for people who are not here, could be here, who are older now, and going forward at least through a generation and a half. So that's a long-term economic picture, that you can begin looking at least at creating a framework for.
And so Wichita, traditionally, people might think of it being manufacturing based. You've talked about how this can maybe be more service based. So explain to me what that means. So
if you look at what I talked, I think, earlier about the fact that there are these stages in retirement. One of the first of which is, you have to get up to the point of making that decision of doing it.
Okay.
And then you do it and you have a honeymoon phase. Part of that honeymoon phase may be continuing to work. The labor force participation rate for older adults has been increasing. It's still, everybody makes it like everybody's going back to work. They're not. They like retirement. They accommodate to retirement. Even if they don't have enough money, they live fine in retirement for the most part. Vast majority of people, I'm not saying everybody. And they have discretionary income that they can spend. They spend most of it on their kids and their family, but then they also keep some aside for themselves and things that they want to do, their bucket list, okay? And part of the bucket list is travel. They want to go places, see things. If you look at, and then the baby boomers are going to have a little bit different travel perspective because they're going to want to have travel with a purpose. They're going to want to ecotourism, things like that. If you start looking at what is available here in your own area, in Sedgwick County, okay, in the state of Kansas, you're close to other places. What is there that can be something that would attract people in, and the services that go along with it? First of all, is health services, okay? Because we know that, if you look at what people spend their money on by generation, absolutely, as you get older, people spend less money, but they spend larger and larger proportions on things like healthcare. And the healthcare costs can be dramatic. Most people are covered by Medicare, so that takes some out of it. But the precursor things are what can get you. Like if you can't live at home, really, and your family caregivers can't be with you. A lot of, particularly, you have two earner households now, boomers, right? Both spouses are working, which means that, but typically the caregiver for an older adult has been a female. Daughter-in-law, okay, comes up number one. If they're working and they're not able to work or they have to curtail their careers, it costs them, the caregiver, upwards for a woman, $381,000 in lost pension, lost Social Security benefits, lost income over the lifetime.
I've never heard anyone put it in those kind of terms. We can see that, though, that women will put off their career or change their career in order to accommodate being a caregiver,
Yes.
and they want to do that. Most of them really want to do it.
Yeah.
It's impacting their own health.
Absolutely.
Whether
Yeah.
they're going to their fitness classes and the things that they're able to participate in, and it's affecting maybe what they can do with their adult kids or their grandchildren. It really does have a big impact.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think that it helps people make decisions when they have logic, and the language of business is numbers, and having some real numbers attached to it, I think is very interesting.
It becomes like a balance point. What am I going to do? And you think, well, okay, that's just for female. Males are going to lose close to $270,000 if they have to become a caregiver. So if you take a couple that at some point needs to do this for two sets of older parents, you're looking at $500,000 or better of lost income, revenue, and benefits from the simple fact of having to do the caregiving.
That makes sense.
Right. So now it becomes a different kind of decision, right? The care itself is very expensive, can run very expensive. I don't know what the current numbers are in Kansas, but anywhere from $45,000 to $75,000 for assisted living, depending on where you are, per year. Not reimbursed, no Medicare, you can have, if you have long-term care insurance, that's a benefit that will take care of a good portion of that, but not all of it typically. Even if you have Medicare, people say, "Well, I got Medicare." Okay, that's great. You got a 20% copay. My father's hospital bill for the last 10 days of his life ran to about $220,000, okay, for which there would have been a 20% copay. That's $40,000, right, that you got to write a check to somebody for. If you don't have it and you're not prepared to be able to pay it, you've got to come up with it some way. Okay, so it's not simply the cost of the care, because a lot of times you have insurance, you have other things, you're going to take care of big portions of that. It's that other stuff that suddenly you say, "You have $40,000 laying around someplace, honey?" Okay, because we're responsible for this bill now. So and then the other part of it is on the other end of the age spectrum, you've got kids in college. Okay. And it's becoming a significant burden on older adults to provide support for college educations for the grandkids typically. Okay, so it's a combination of adult parents and older adults, grandparents who are throwing money in to try and take care of some of those college costs. So these pressures are all over the place that nobody's sitting down saying, "Oh, we need to plan for that." In one of the pieces of research we did, we looked at about what do you need to have set aside for minimum annually for unexpected expenses. And it was about $30,000. You need $10,000 for unanticipated stuff in the house. You need $10,000 for family stuff, and you need $10,000 just for like something's going to come up. Okay, and you want to have that available, ready to go, just to take care of minimal unexpected kinds of things that are going on. I mentioned to you before, about some of the housing things. When my parents we needed to sell my parents' home, which they had lived in for 40 years. And in order to sell the house, you have to have it inspected. And the inspectors found the 1950s 1,000-gallon oil tank that had been leaking into the property for God knows how long, and had to be remediated before my real estate professor said, nobody's even going to look at the place until that's taken care of. Well, that was about $40,000 out of their estate that I had to try and scramble to get to. It's not like it doesn't happen, and it happens more often than not, because there's so many things that people aren't doing the preparation for. So this convergence of the lifespan, health span, and wealth span, it is a framework to be looking at how do you deal with that. Like, you have to deal with all of them. You can't just say, we're going to take care of getting the money taken care of. What about the other thing? How is that health issue going to potentially impact on this?
Yeah.
So that's why, again, it's brain surgery. I mean, it's the life equivalent of brain surgery. You don't want to be doing that on your own.
And good to tackle it. By the way, I was going to mention that statistics show that 1 out of 5 employees is dealing with an aging parent.
Yes, yeah.
And so it's a significant issue in business and in the workplace is how do you help your employees deal with this?
Yeah.
So I think the more that our state can make these services available to enhance the health, wealth, and life span of our entire population, the better. I think there's a great opportunity here from listening to some of what you've said. And your impression when you first came to Wichita, you haven't seen much of it yet.
No.
But getting off the plane, what was your impression?
I thought I was in like the wrong place. My anticipation of Wichita was a small, Midwestern airport. I walked in, I thought I was like the Jetsons, I'm going like, what a place this is. It was just, this is a place on the move. This is a place that's getting prepared. This is ready.
I think it's palatable. I'm out networking, attending lots of events and working with lots of business people, and I feel it. I know people feel it. There's just a terrific movement in Wichita to really grow and make, just help us reemerge.
Yeah.
And the airport was part of that. We have a beautiful baseball stadium that's just opening up, so it's exciting.
Yeah.
And I love this discussion on how we can enhance people's lives. We see reverse migration already.
Yeah.
People move away, maybe even at college or shortly after, and they're gone their entire lives, and then they want to move back to Wichita where they grew up.
Yeah.
They want to move back to College Hill, or it's interesting. There's a lot of people that choose to age here because it is so affordable.
Yeah.
And you build your network. And when you move, you have a very fractured network. You have to find your doctors. You have to find all of these services.
Yeah. I mean, just geographically, when I was looking at the positioning, I'm saying, so this is really interesting. Again, I'm coming in, hadn't really thought about Wichita in a long time. Let me put it that way. It's close to stuff. It's close to Colorado. It's close to all that stuff. It's close to Texas. It's close to Oklahoma. It's close to Arizona. So you have a place close to my heart here in Kansas, Manhattan.
Yeah.
I'm saying, I got to come back to a state where I can say I went to Manhattan, but it wasn't in New York.
Yeah, and that's a pretty great place you should visit. So when you are talking to business people in the community, what's your message to them about how they can support their aging population?
I don't talk to them about supporting their aging population. I talk to them about taking advantage of the longevity economy that's available to them. That's the framework that most people go into.
Okay.
We have to take care of our older population. Well, thank you very much, and you certainly do. But the opportunity is what we were talking about a little bit before. That's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the economic resources that they have, that they're generating and that they have available. I don't talk about typically the support. You want to support the support network that's there. You want to bulk up the support network that's there. You've got, federal agencies, you've got government agencies, you've got state agencies, you've got county agencies, you have municipal agencies. All are there to set up to do that support that most people are talking about. That's where you want to drive the support. And you want to have a framework for, and I use taking advantage in only the best sense of the words, to use the resources that are there in an exchange basis. It's not like the issue of support is I'm giving something to you. Most people in these age groups don't go with their hand out. You'll rarely find that. They will reject help when it's offered because of their pride in themselves and their families in terms of doing that. So you have the opposite issues. You have to create services that are attractive and the kinds of environments that will allow people to say, I want to be there and I want to contribute into it. So it's not a matter of supporting them. It's a matter of them living in the community just like anybody else, okay? And to take a look at your activity. One of the areas in which I'm very involved is called asset-based community development. And so, the philosophy behind it is very, very simple. If you put some water in a glass, and tell me whether you think it's half full or half empty. Asset-based community development always talks about the glass being half full with all of the things that can be done by the people who are already there. Was once working on a project, a local community were using some asset-based community development work, and they had transportation issues. There was no bus service. There was no, they were in kind of a far, western side of a county and couldn't get around because the bus service didn't go that far. So we talked to this local group about maybe starting their own transportation service. So we were on kind of a circuit. We'd go through there every month, and about 2 months later, we came back and they said to us, well, let us show you our new transportation service. I said, oh, who set that up? Oh, we did. Oh, well, how did you do that? Well, we found some information and we did this and we did that and whatever. And, now we've got, people giving rides to other people and they're going to the store and the doctors and we don't have to worry and there's no bus service, who cares, blah, blah, blah. And they were all happy. So we went back to the governmental organization that had hired us to do the work. And we said, did you know that they've got a whole transportation system going out there? They go, why did they do that? They didn't even come and talk to us about it,
The market will create what's needed.
Absolutely. And they're there. And like I said, telephone, telegraph, telesenior, they did it ground level, okay? They did it from the bottom up. So, and that's available in every community. So you don't have to be talking necessarily about what are we going to do it's always the give. You got to put it into them. What you want to do is you want to create opportunities for them to do. Because they'll come up with their own solutions. They know the solutions better than most other folks do.
Well, it sounds like Wichita and Kansas is well positioned to have a multi-generational opportunity that maybe can keep more of our residents here and have our seniors aging here.
Yeah.
So.
And bring them in from New York. You never can tell.
They're going to save a lot of money. And I think we have a wonderful way of life here. When I travel to larger cities, it's exciting and fun. And then I sometimes feel a little sorry for how people live. They don't know how wonderful it is in Kansas.
Yeah.
We really got a good thing going here. And I think it's a secret that needs to get out.
Yeah. You got Dorothy.
All right. Well, I'm glad that you're in on the secret. Maybe you can help us spread the word.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much, John, for being here. And thank you for tuning in to Empowering Seniors. If you have questions about any of the topics that we've discussed, or if you have suggestions for us, give us a ring at the station or reach out at kpts.org. And thanks again. Hope you tune in next time.
This program is made possible by 46% of non-retirees believe they can't afford to retire. American Senior Benefits agents help retirees find solutions aiding your journey to retirement and financial security. More at wichita.americanseniorbenefits.com. Moving can be stressful. Whether your move is local or long distance, 2 Men in a Truck can help. More at 2men.com.
Are you a wartime veteran ages 73 to 85? Did you know there are new rules that may affect your pension? Don't lose out on benefits you deserve. Our team serves you because you served us. Contact Long-Term Care for Veterans today.